Part 54. The Strongest Assassin in the Server. Author, B.A. Wang Shi-san. Chapter 531. Mobile Reading. The Hell Messenger can choose any monster in Hell as his assistant. Both black and white impermanents are saints, and the monsters they choose must also be saints. At the beginning, Ye-Chen wanted to apply for the Hell Messenger, and King Yama laughed and said, "Defeat black and white impermanents first." At that time, Ye-Chen did not ask clearly whether it was to defeat black and white impermanents or just one of them. If it was necessary to defeat black and white impermanents at the same time, then Ye-Chen would have to face 4 saints at the same time. Shaking his head, Ye-Chen no longer thought about it, and everything would be discussed after meeting King Yama. Continue flying, cross the Black River, and come to the King of Hell's Hall. Outside the door, there are ox-headed and horse-faced guards. Ye-Chen glanced and found that the ox-headed and horse-faced were of a low grade. Although they were more than 80 levels, they were not saints. At this moment, the ox-headed and horse-faced saw Ye-Chen and was quite respectful, inviting Ye-Chen into the hall. King Yama, with a full beard and a majestic face, sat on the high platform. He was very tall, nearly 3 meters long. Ye-Chen didn't take it seriously. Now that he knew that King Yama was also a god, his attitude suddenly became much more respectful. Next to the high platform, there was also a desk, and a white-faced scholar was writing and drawing with a pen. This man was the judge, and Ye-Chen didn't dare to underestimate him. He looked at him and was full of question marks. Is the judge also a god? Ye-Chen took a breath of cold air. You know, his recognition is very high, and he has the title identifier. Even Buddy and Odin from 10,000 years ago, he can see through 1 or 2. You know, Buddy and Odin are both level 99 Super Saints. Level 99 Super Saints, Ye-Chen can see through it, but the judge can't see through it. If it's not a god, what is it? Ye-Chen, what do you want? King Yama glanced at Ye-Chen and said lightly. When Ye-Chen met the King of Hell, he was only over 30 levels. Now, Ye-Chen is already a Saint Domain Strongman, but the King of Hell's attitude towards him has not changed at all. Of course, this is normal. The King of Hell is a god, and he only sees gods. The rest are ants. Why should he care too much? King of Hell, I came here this time to become the messenger of Hell. Catch more lonely ghosts to strengthen the prestige of my underworld. Ye-Chen smiled slightly. King of Hell is the god of Hell. All the lonely ghosts in Hell are obviously his believers. Ye-Chen said this, naturally there is a hint of flattery in his heart. Of course, flattery is flattery. After he really becomes the messenger of Hell, he will not catch any lonely ghosts, unless there is some mandatory task. Sure enough, as Ye-Chen guessed, King of Hell heard the words, and a hint of obscure smile appeared on his serious face. But it only stayed for a moment, and his face became majestic without anger. Very good, Ye-Chen, now that you have arrived at the Holy Land, you will fight with the black and white impermanents. If you can defeat them, I will grant you the title of Hell Messenger. King Yama laughed loudly and looked at the judge. The judge nodded, and the judge's pen flicked casually, and ripples appeared in the space. The ripples gradually widened, forming a circle and covering Ye-Chen. The next moment, the current scene changed. This was obviously the power of the law of space. Ye-Chen came to a ring, and on the other side, black and white impermanents opposed him. The howling of lonely ghosts came from outside the ring, as if cheering and cheering. Ye-Chen glanced outside the arena and saw a sea of lonely ghosts. There was also a high platform outside the ring, and King Yama sat majestically on it. There was also a table next to it, and the judge sat on it. Okay, both of you can start, the judge said. The black and white impermanent's eyes shone, and Ye-Chen quickly stretched out his hand. Wait a minute, what are the rules of the game? Death determines the outcome, judge said coldly. Death determines the outcome? I don't care. If the black and white impermanents lose, won't they really die? Ye Chen asked in confusion. Yes, King Yama and the judge are gods, but even if they are gods, if they are not priests, they don't have the ability to bring back the dead. Ye Shen, what do you mean? Do you think you can kill our black and white impermanents? Black and white impermanents sneered. Ha ha. The judge laughed, and even King Yama couldn't help laughing. Ye Shen, don't you know the book of life and death? My judge's pen, whoever I want to live will live, whoever I want to die will die. The judge raised the judge's pen towards Ye Chen, pretending to be infinite. In fact, he is not as awesome as he said. He can indeed control life and death in the human world and the ghost world, but he can't mess around. And in the God realm, that is, the God realm, he has no right to interfere. But even so, he was powerful enough. Ye Chen immediately put his worries aside. Begin, the judge shouted again. He Vucheng's eyes were stern, and he screamed for no reason, like a ghost howling. This was a howl of fear. The harsh sound waves hit, and Ye Chen couldn't help but fall into a state of confusion, began to sway left and right, and began to act randomly without consciousness. Immobilization talisman. Then, the black afterimage floated, and He Vucheng seemed to be close to Ye Chen, and pasted a long white talisman on his head. Ye Chen was frozen, but recovered in the next moment. Human talent, firm will. Can release control once. In addition, because of the effect of the immobilization talisman, it also offset the chaotic effect of the howl of fear. Ye Chen recovered all of a sudden. He Vucheng was stunned, his face was bitter, and he lost a lot. Old Black, you don't learn your lesson again. Humans have the gift of strong will. Didn't I teach you last time? Bai Vucheng rolled his eyes and said with a smile, you still have to rely on me. After speaking, the scream sounded again, and Ye Chen was thrown into chaos again. Fear Howl, this skill is really disgusting. With a super large range, there is no place to hide. The only drawback is that the chaos probability of Fear Howl is not high, but black and white impermanence is a super old monster who has lived for who knows how many years. I am afraid that the Fear Howl has already reached the maximum level. More importantly, black and white impermanents are ghosts, and using Fear Howl has an amplification effect. Stop talking nonsense, freeze him quickly. Let me fry him in an oil pan, Black Vucheng said angrily. Bullshit, after freezing, I can cut off his tongue and kill him in seconds. Do I still need your broken oil pan? Bai Vucheng sneered, and the white afterimage floated. He was close to Ye Chen and pasted a long white talisman on his head. The next moment, Ye Chen was motionless and was controlled again. Cut the tongue. Next, a very bloody scene appeared. Bai Vucheng used his hands to pry open Ye Chen's mouth, and his pale, bloodless right hand quickly reached into Ye Chen's mouth. You know, Ye Chen's mouth is only that big, but Bai Vucheng forcibly put his right hand in, and immediately Ye Chen's chin and mouth swelled up. 7. Sikusu. The strongest assassin in the server. Author, B.A. Wang Shi-san. Chapter 532. Renren Novels welcomes you. Please remember the address of this website, Mobile Reading, so that you can read the latest chapters of the novel The Strongest Assassin in the server at any time. Taiwan Novels Network Rightward arrow diamond suit. Then, Bai Vucheng's pale right hand forcibly pulled out Ye Chen's tongue. 10 cm. 20 cm. 30 cm. Ye Chen's tongue was forcibly stretched to 30 centimeters. This scene was extremely cruel. However, Ye Chen is now in hell, and the audience outside the ring are all lonely ghosts. They are used to this kind of scene and screamed excitedly at this moment. After Bai Vucheng pulled out Ye Chen's tongue, he switched to pulling with his left hand, and his right hand turned into a sharp hand knife and chopped it down with one knife. Seeing that Bai Vucheng's hand knife was about to chop off Ye Chen's tongue, Suddenly, Ye Chen disappeared out of thin air, and appeared again 10 yards away. Obviously, this was Xiao Hei's instant transfer. Snap! The speed of the instant transfer was too fast. It was not until the end that Ye Chen appeared again, and his stretched tongue bounced back into his mouth. Ye Chen was horrified and his face was horrified. It was too horrible. Although it was a game, but having his tongue cut was possible now, and Ye Chen really didn't want to experience it again. Armament hardening. Flame armor. Tyrant dragon pattern. Blood blade. Dochi. Ye Chen opened BFF and rushed directly to attack He Vucheng. Any skill could cause hundreds of millions of damage, and He Vucheng retreated repeatedly, his head tilted back, and fell into a state of cyclic stiffness. The peak of the holy domain is not just talk, Ye Chen's power is extremely violent. At this moment, He Vucheng was stiff, and Bai Vucheng waved the long whip in his hand repeatedly, whipping Ye Chen with a snapping sound. However, each time Bai Vucheng whipped, he could only deal tens of thousands of damage, and could not break Ye Chen's stiffness. Sparks flew all over his body, but Ye Chen remained motionless, because the effect of the blood blade on people's blood recovery, every time he could easily make up for the damage caused by Bai Vucheng. Full blood. Ye Chen's HP rose and fell, but it was always full of blood. On the other side, He Vucheng's HP dropped like water. In less than a minute, he had lost tens of billions of blood. Ye Chen 10 years later was indeed terrible, but Ye Chen was not weak now. What a strong human! Bai Vucheng sighed secretly, and his cold eyes swept over He Vucheng, who was retreating continuously, his head tilted back slightly, and was beaten without any ability to fight back. His heart was immediately trembling. He knew that He Vucheng could not be counted on now, and his attacks could not pose a threat to Ye Chen. If this continued, He Vucheng would die, and then he alone would not be able to stop Ye Chen's etch. With this thought, he dared not hold back. Suddenly, a black token flashed in his hand, and then the space fluctuated, forming a small black hole. Then a tiny snake head slowly emerged from the black hole. Of course, there was a trace of the power of the law of space, so this slow was not really slow. At least when the snake completely emerged from the black hole, Ye Chen did not even cut it once. Then the snake was completely exposed to the air, and the black hole disappeared. The snake was about 5 meters long, and its body was only 3 fingers wide. It was a thin and long snake. The snake's pupils were erected, emitting fierce light. From the appearance alone, it was hard to think that the snake was a holy beast. In fact, this snake was indeed not a holy beast. There was no way. The black and white impermanents had been messengers of hell a long time ago, and at that time, there were no fierce beasts such as bone dragons and abyss demons in hell. The next moment, Bai Vucheng threw away the long whip in his hand, grabbed the snake's tail with his bare hands, and then swung it wildly in a circle, waving it towards Ye Chen. The long snake was thrown around, but it didn't feel dizzy at all. It had a fierce look in its eyes, opened its mouth, and revealed 2 small but sharp teeth, biting towards Ye Chen. Swish! The snake's head broke through the fighting spirit and slammed into Ye Chen's chest. The violent force pushed Ye Chen back several steps, but fortunately he didn't enter stiffness. -103,450. -1003. 2 consecutive damages appeared, and Ye Chen's blood bar above his head plummeted by more than half. He reached out and touched his chest, and his hand was covered with blood. Here, a small piece of meat was torn off by the long snake, and it was bleeding. Every second will reduce 1003 blood and 1003 blue. Until today, this Bai Vucheng has not given up his little snake on the high platform outside the ring. King Yama suddenly smiled. The messenger of hell, generally after selecting a monster assistant, cannot be changed. But Bai Vucheng was his confidant, so he could make an exception for him and let him choose a stronger monster assistant. He also mentioned this to Baivachain, but the latter refused. Yes, a rubbish little snake, it's a pity that he trained this extremely sharp snake whip. The judge nodded and smiled. Obviously, he admired Baivachain very much. It was not until then that Yechen began to pay attention to Baivachain. I saw the long snake flying wildly in Baivachain's hand, with a fierce look in his eyes. The monster summoned by the Hell Messenger token, as a weapon, the damage suddenly increased tenfold. There is also a bleeding effect, and at the same time, blood and mana are deducted. A solemn look appeared in Yechen's eyes. Uzhashienko, his blood volume is less than 1/5 now. If he is whipped by the snake again, he will be killed instantly. Suddenly, the long snake danced and whipped again. Its speed was so fast that ordinary people could not see it. Yechen had very good eyesight, so he could see it naturally. He was also very fast, so he could barely dodge it. However, this long whip was not an ordinary long whip, but a snake whip. This weapon had its own consciousness. Seeing Yechen dodge, it turned around and whipped again. Yechen continued to dodge and released a goodwill halo. This goodwill halo must be ineffective against the black and white impermanence, so Yechen's target was the snake whip. A soft light shone out, and the snake whip had no reaction and continued to whip violently. Yechen was not surprised but happy, which proved that the long snake was no longer a simple monster, but had become the weapon of the white impermanence. And as long as it was a weapon, Yechen could destroy it with a strong attack. Bang! While Yechen was thinking, he didn't know that the black impermanence had already gotten rid of the stiffness and slapped Yechen away with a frying pan. -10,402. As the damage emerged, the boiling oil in the oil pan splashed everywhere. Baivachain swept again, and the flames under the oil pan ignited the boiling oil. A series of explosions, bang bang bang, exploded from midair all the way to Yechen. -1. The damage on Yechen's body made Baivachain startled. They had seen Yechen's defense, which was very strong. But they could also break the defense. And this time, the power of the explosion using boiling oil should be very powerful, but it couldn't break the defense. Fire resistance. How powerful is the fire resistance to be so awesome? This kid's fire resistance is over 10,000, Baivachain shouted decisively. As soon as he said this, he was startled, and Baivachain beside him, and even the lonely ghosts outside, were all stunned. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The strongest assassin in the server. Author, Ba Wang Shi-san. Chapter 533. Renren Novels welcomes you. Please remember the address of this website, mobile reading, so that you can read the latest chapters of the novel The Strongest Assassin in the server at any time. You know, even the high-level preacher of the upper god of the fire system only has 3,000 fire resistance. Such an existence, after being promoted to the holy domain, generally has a fire resistance of about 4,000 points. And Yechen actually has more than 10,000 points of fire resistance, which is simply terrible. No wonder even boiling oil can't break the defense. Yechen, it's okay if he doesn't become a god, but once he becomes a god, he will be extremely terrible. King Yanluo looked at Yechen with a rare admiration. He could see that Yechen was a high-level preacher of the upper god of fire. Normally, Yechen should have only more than 1,000 fire strength and about 4,000 fire resistance. In fact, Yechen's fire strength and fire resistance far exceeded several times. This is a high foundation. On the other hand, Yechen only has a kind of faith power, but has the combat power of the peak of the holy domain. From here, it is once again proved that Yechen's foundation is terrible. Such a being, once it becomes a god, will have obvious advantages. Yeah, the judge nodded in agreement. Damn it, I don't believe it. He Vucheng really didn't believe it, and rushed towards Ye Chen with the oil pan, with a residual shadow floating behind him, and in the blink of an eye he was close to Ye Chen. Then the oil pan was slapped, and Ye Chen's body shrank at a speed visible to the naked eye, and was locked into the oil pan by He Vucheng. At this moment, Ye Chen's body became smaller than the dwarf's, only the size of a finger. The oil pan, which was originally not big, is now like a lake to Ye Chen. The boiling oil is boiling, and hot steam is coming out, and with it comes damage, -1, -1, -1. The explosion of boiling oil can't break the defense, and now just lying in the boiling oil, what's the point? Looking at such damage, He Vucheng felt insulted, and with a god in his right hand, the Dark Hell Messenger token flashed out. The next moment, the space fluctuated, and a small black hole appeared. It was also a snake head, but it was a scarlet one that slowly emerged from the black hole. Soon, a scarlet, 5-meter-long thin snake appeared in its entirety. This snake was also not a holy beast. He Vucheng was also a confidant of King Yama. As long as he was willing, King Yama could make an exception and let him choose another hell monster as his assistant. But since he was unwilling to change, he was obviously optimistic about the ability of his red snake. In fact, the ability of this red snake was nothing else, but it was not afraid of boiling oil, and it could further increase the temperature of boiling oil. This just matched He Vucheng's method. Because of this, he cherished this red snake like a treasure. And He Vucheng's usual task was to lock the disobedient ghosts into the oil pan and fry them. And when he put the red snake into the oil pan, it was a great torture in hell. Now, He Vucheng wanted to use this to deal with Ye Chen, so that Ye Chen could also taste the torture of hell. Haha, this black impermanence is really a rotten wood that cannot be carved. Now millions of years have passed, he is still immersed in this boring game. The judge shook his head and smiled. Yama also smiled, but although the two of them laughed at black impermanence, they did not blame him. Hell is too boring, and having a funny guy like black impermanence adds a bit of fun to them. Splash! As soon as black impermanence loosened his hand, the red snake rushed into the oil pan impatiently, and its body shrank inexplicably. Originally 5 meters long, it was only as long as chopsticks at this moment. As the red snake entered the oil pan, the temperature in the oil pan suddenly soared. -8,820. -8,820. -8,820. The damage soared. Previously, the oil pan could not break the defense, but as the red snake entered and increased the temperature of the boiling oil, it actually burned thousands of damage per second. If Ye Chen had not used self-recovery and sucked a sip of the bottle to restore 50% of his blood volume, he might have died at this moment. Of course, this damage increase does not mean that the red snake has increased the damage of the oil pan by thousands of times. It just increased the fire power a little and broke Ye Chen's fire resistance. Haha, Bai Vucheng, you don't have to make a move, just watch me burn Ye Chen to death with the oil pan. He Vucheng laughed wildly. Although his oil pan looks ordinary, it is actually a magical artifact given by King Yama. The effect is extremely strange. Once an outsider falls into the oil pan, he loses the ability to fly and it is difficult to get out. Moreover, the body becomes smaller, and the skill range is also reduced. Even if the teleportation skill is used, can it still teleport out of a lake? In other words, being locked in the oil pan, unless He Vucheng takes the initiative to release it, it is almost a certain death. Haha, Bai Vucheng smiled. The two of them smiled and looked down at Ye Chen in the oil pan. The lonely ghosts outside the field also howled excitedly. Although King Yama and the judge did not laugh, they looked at the oil pan with a hint of playfulness. Crack! Suddenly, a sound of breaking was heard, and the expressions of everyone present became horrified. The oil pan, The oil pan actually broke open. Yechen and the red snake's figures enlarged at a speed visible to the naked eye. In the blink of an eye, they returned to their normal size. Yechen grabbed the red snake with his bare hands, stepped on the broken oil pan, and a playful smile appeared in his eyes. Haha, so what if it can't fly out? Just smash it with a strong blow. Hiss, damn, I'm a frying pan. Hei-Va-Chain was dumbfounded for a while, and when he woke up, he immediately jumped in anger. Bai-Va-Chain was also stunned. If others didn't know, how could he not know? The oil pan of Hei-Va-Chain is a divine weapon. The artifact was actually destroyed, which is simply a fantasy. The crowd of lonely ghosts outside the venue were also shocked and dumbfounded, but soon they burst out in ecstasy, shouting Yuchen ID. There was nothing they could do, they were too afraid of the oil pot called Hei-Va-Chain. Many of them had tasted the oil pot themselves, and they were in agony. But now, Yechen actually destroyed the oil pan, and they couldn't control their joy. Noisy, presumptuous, King Yama roared angrily, and all the lonely ghosts fell into silence. And the way King Yama looked at Yechen was filled with a complicated meaning. He could actually destroy even divine weapons. Yechen's methods were unheard of even to him. In the arena, Yechen grabbed the red snake with both hands and tore it into pieces. Blood spattered on Hei-Va-Chain's face, making Hei-Va-Chain's already angry and ferocious face look even more ferocious. Yechen glanced at Hei-Va-Chain and threw the red snake's body aside. This red snake is not even a holy beast. Yechen kills it in seconds with no effort at all. Immediately afterwards, Yechen's eyes flashed, and he strode towards Bai-Va-Chain. He was so fast that he pulled out after images behind him. Court death. Bai-Va-Chain roared angrily and struck with the snake whip, smashing Yechen into pieces with a bang, sending yellow sand everywhere. The next moment, Yechen himself appeared next to the yellow sand that fell to the ground. He raised his knife and cut off Bai-Va-Chain's snake whip. The strongest assassin in the server. Author, B.A. Wang Shi-san. Chapter 534. Mobile reading. Hei-Va-Chain's oil pan was exploded, and Bai-Va-Chain's snake whip was cut off. Their strength has dropped by more than one margin. Taiwan Novel Network Rightward Arrow. Do you still need to continue? Yechen smiled proudly, showing his domineering attitude. On the other side, Black and White Va-Chain smiled bitterly. He knew that if he continued to fight, it would be a disastrous defeat, so he immediately gave up. Brother Yechen, you won, we are no match for you, Black and White Va-Chain said at the same time. Okay, yeah God, you won this game. I kept my promise and gave you the name of the messenger of hell. King Yama stood up and said loudly. System, you gain the title Hell Messenger. System, you obtain the Hell Messenger token. Hell Messenger, Holy Artifact. Level 1. Strength add 500. Physical strength add 500. Intelligence add 500. Spirit add 500. Agility add 500. Special effects, you can open the door to hell and enter and exit hell freely. Hell Messenger token, special item, choose any monster in hell as an assistant. After the monster is sacrificed, it will sleep for 24 hours and be resurrected. Yechen was overjoyed and immediately took off the Pioneer and put on the Hell Messenger, and his attributes increased slightly again. Then, using the Hell Messenger token, an option box popped up in front of him, which contained all the monsters in hell. There are also black and impermanent red snakes and white and impermanent long snakes, but the list is gray. Although these two kinds of snakes are not holy beasts, they are extremely rare. The whole hell will never be the same again. Yechen disagreed. Even if there were still two kinds of snakes, he wouldn't want them. He only wants the bone dragon. But when he turned to the bone dragon in the option box, he found that the bone dragon was also gray, indicating that someone had already taken advantage of him. Well, what's going on? Could someone be one step ahead of me? Yechen was startled. Black and White Vuchame took a step forward and said with a wry smile, "Brother Yechen, there was indeed someone who defeated us before you, and there was more than one person. Both of them were defeated when they joined forces." This was not a glorious thing, the two said. His face was a little red. "There's more than one person." Yechen's eyes narrowed and he rummaged carefully and found that the options for powerful holy beasts such as Bone Dragon, Ghost Elephant Lord, Hydra, Nether Bird, etc. were all grey. It must be the guys who used the evil suit to cheat. Yechen smiled bitterly. He had a sinful heart at the beginning, but in the Chinese war zone with the most players in the server, he only had a sin value of 160,000. At that time, countries were worried about those perverts. South Korea's Ing had a sin value of 230,000, America's George had a sin value of 210,000, and Britain's Neil had a sin value of 250,000. Especially the American John, who has a terrifying crime value of 390,000. Yechen knows about the Hell Messenger token. It is conceivable that all those perverts also know about it. Only then did Yechen take one step ahead and become the messenger of hell. Sure enough, the world is still very big. Yechen sighed secretly, but his fighting spirit was burning. The king is lonely because it is difficult for them to find a matching opponent, and Yechen has now completely defeated the king and is known as the Overlord. There are even fewer opponents who can make him serious. Jingguji was one of them, but Yechen now discovered some terrifying existences that completely destroy Jingguji, and he became inexplicably excited. "Brother Yechen, you don't know, there is a guy named John who defeated my two brothers when he was over level 60. Hey," Vuchame said with a wry smile. He felt embarrassed and his face turned red. John. Yechen narrowed his eyes. John became the messenger of hell when he was over level 60, which is really abnormal. You know, the token of the Hell Messenger was just a consumable item at first, and it summoned the Hell monsters to help at one time. That Hell monster is at the same level as the summoner. The Hell Messenger uses tokens, which are also special items and are permanent. There are no restrictions on the summoned Hell monsters. The Holy Beast is the Holy Beast. That guy John, who is over level 60, already has the strength to challenge Black and White, and is helped by a Holy Beast. How terrifying will it be? Now John must be in the holy realm of level 80 or above. It is really hard to imagine what level he has reached. With a secret sigh, Yechen also began to choose his own monster assistant. After many choices, it was still the Abyss Demon in the end. There are not many holy beasts in hell, there are only a few that are particularly powerful, and almost all of them have been preempted by others. The Abyss Demon wears a hell suit. Nowadays, the hell suit is so harmonious that no one is optimistic about it. But after all, he is a humanoid monster with room and potential for growth. Yechen has no better choice now but to choose him. After selecting it, Yechen directly summoned it. This was a permanent summons. Unless Yechen takes him back again, he can exist permanently. Even if he dies in battle, he can be resurrected after 24 hours of sleep. Haha, boy, you have such good taste, you chose me. The Abyss Demon appeared and laughed wildly. But from Yechen's point of view, his smile was a bit sad, because no one chose him, and Yechen chose him because he had no better choice. The Abyss Demon is a humanoid black shadow, immune to physical attacks. Xiaohei is also a humanoid black shadow, but it is Yechen's shadow. Only Yechen can see it. Outsiders can't see it at all, let alone hit it. It is invincible. In Yechen's opinion, Xiaohei is much stronger than the Abyss Demon. But Xiaohei has limitations. He can only be separated from himself by a maximum of 40. This is the biggest flaw. Abyss Demon, World Sanctuary. Level 99. Warzone, none. Faction, none. Race, Ghost. Title, Abyss Demon. HP, 25,000,000,000/25,000,000,000,000. Skills: Demon's Sprint, Heart Digger, Horror Howl. Remarks: a murderous and blood-drinking demon with heinous crimes. The original Warzone and camp are ashamed of it. After killing it, it fell into hell and suffered hundreds of tortures. Because of too much killing, I forgot my name. World Sanctuary. Yechen was startled, and then suddenly realized. Hell connects all the war zones, and it can be regarded as a world map. It is not surprising that the monsters in it have world blood. Yechen was not happy but worried to get a Super Saint combat power. The Abyss Demon is a Super Saint, and the Bone Dragon must be a Super Saint too. The Abyss Demon is essentially an NPC. Even if it is a level 99 Super Saint, it only has 250 billion HP, and the HP of the Bone Dragon is probably calculated in trillions. King of Hell, Judge, Brother Black and White Impermanence, we will take our leave first. Yechen glanced at the Abyss Demon and said humbly to King Yama and others. Go. King Yama waved his hand. The next moment, Yechen used the title of Hell Messenger to open the door of Hell in reverse, and left Hell with the Abyss Demon. I want to get my hands stained with blood. After the Abyss Demon came out, he first breathed in the fresh air, and then laughed wildly. 7. Sikusu. The strongest assassin in the server. Author, B.A. Wang Shi-san. Chapter 535. Haha, kid, I have to thank you, but now you are no longer useful. From now on, you walk your own single plank bridge, and I walk my own sunny road. Jokes. The Abyss Demon laughed sinisterly, glanced at Yechen, and said contemptuously, I advise you not to try to order me, otherwise I will kill you too. After speaking, the Abyss Demon embraced the sky with both hands and laughed wildly. I hope readers will remember our domain name Taiwan Novel Network rightward arrow. He is domineering, strong, rampant, and unruly. Before he was in hell, he was still quite low-key with the two gods, King Yama and Judge, who could suppress him. Now, he is so rampant that he looks completely inhuman. Yechen chose him as an assistant and allowed him to see the light of day again, but he had no gratitude at all. Looking at Yechen, his eyes were full of disdain and contempt. It's no wonder. Why should a powerful Super Saint be inferior to others and be ordered around by others? Not only him, but other powerful Super Saints such as the Bone Dragon, the Ghost Elephant Lord, the Hydra, the Nether Bird, etc., are also arrogant and may not like their masters. Because of this, Hibai-Vuchain had the opportunity to reselect the assistance of the Hell monsters, but he declined. Indeed, they have feelings for the Red Snake and the Long Snake, but the main reason is that they are worried that they can't suppress these terrifying monsters. Hearing this, Yechen's eyes were stern. Yan Yang. A ball of fire suddenly surged from the Kylin in Yechen's hand, turned into a flame, and slashed at the Abyss Demon with a knife. The violent power surged and repelled it several yards. The Abyss Demon's head tilted back slightly, and he was unconscious and fell into a state of stiffness. Indeed, the Abyss Demon is undoubtedly a Super Saint, and his foundation is very terrifying, but he is wearing a hell suit and his stiffness is not high. With Yechen's current strength, he can easily repel it. Asshole! You dare to hit me? I'll kill you. Half a second later, the Abyss Demon woke up from his stiffness, his face was ferocious, and he was filled with violent killing intent. Demon's speed. The Abyss Demon rushed out like lightning, leaving a trail of after-images, and his speed was dazzling. At the same time, Yechen tore 3 scrolls, and a net-like holy light emerged, covering the Abyss Demon, causing his forward figure to suddenly stop. Obviously, these scrolls were all mute scrolls, which sealed the Abyss Demon's speed, heart-pulling, and fearful howl. The Abyss Demon only had these 3 skills, and now they were all sealed, becoming S at once. Evil creature. Don't think I can't suppress you. You're still far away. Ye Chen roared, knocked off a bottle of magic conduction potion, and opened FF, attacking the Abyss Demon. While he was opening FF, Xiao He rushed forward to attack the Abyss Demon. Xiao He's strength is equal to Ye Chen's, and he can easily stiffen the Abyss Demon by himself. After Ye Chen went up, Xiao He retreated, started FF, and overlapped with Ye Chen again, attacking the Abyss Demon frantically. The two of them attacked frantically, and they could cut off hundreds of millions of HP of the Abyss Demon in 1 second. If they used the finishing move, they could cut off more than 1 billion in 1 second. In just 1 minute, the Abyss Demon's HP plummeted by 100 billion. The Abyss Demon fell into a state of cyclic stiffness, with no power to fight back. Stop, 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 I know, I was wrong, the Abyss Demon was beaten like a dog, and said intermittently. The Hand of Hell. Ye Chen's eyes were ferocious, and even if the other party admitted his mistake, he was still not satisfied. The space behind him broke open and a ferocious demon arm stretched out. Under the control of Ye Chen's will, the Hand of Hell caught the Abyss Demon like chasing a chicken, and then threw it out violently. The violent force exploded the air, generating a series of shock waves, and finally the Abyss Demon smashed heavily on a huge rock on the giant island. The rock cracked quickly, and then exploded, stirring up thick smoke. Giant Island. That's right, Ye Chen was on the giant island before he went to hell. Now that he came out of hell, he naturally appeared in the same place. As early as when Ye Chen was beating the Abyss Demon, a group of main forces were attracted to watch. At this moment, seeing Ye Chen in a rage, domineeringly throwing the Abyss Demon away, they were shocked for a while. Hiss, boss, Ye Chen is domineering. What is that humanoid black shadow? Insights are all question marks. It must be very strong, but it is still not the opponent of our boss Ye Chen. While the main forces exclaimed, Ye Chen pulled up a trail of after images and quickly came to stand above the Abyss Demon. Looking down from a high place, Ye Chen stared at the Abyss Demon with a contemptuous look. Brother, I'm just joking with you, don't take it so seriously. The Abyss Demon got up from the ground, patted the non-existent dust on his butt, and laughed. The effect of the mute scroll has disappeared now, but he was also scared by Ye Chen, and he didn't dare to counter-attack at this moment. Call me master, Ye Chen said coldly. His eyes were emotionless and ignored the Abyss Demon. You. Huh. The Abyss Demon's eyes were full of humiliation and resentment. Just as he was about to argue, Ye Chen snorted coldly, which made his heart tremble. Master, master. The Abyss Demon was inexplicably afraid and hummed in a low voice, as soft as a mosquito. Seeing this, Ye Chen snorted and stopped making things difficult. After a while, the shocked crowd quickly gathered around Ye Chen. After learning the truth, they all respected Ye Chen to the point of worship. This black guy is called the Abyss Demon, and he is a super saint and strong man. Boss Ye Chen, how strong are you that you can defeat a super saint? More than just a beating, Boss Ye Chen's domineering power is simply unparalleled. In just one sentence, he would scare the super saints to the point where they dare not even move. Everyone was shocked beyond measure, and they respected Ye Chen from the bottom of their hearts. Ye Chen chuckled lightly, pointed at the Abyss Demon and said, Abyss Demon, you are really a frog in the well. You have no realm and no means. In my eyes, you are just a pile of scum. Yes, yes. The Abyss Demon kept nodding, he was really convinced by Ye Chen. Ye Chen's realm is not high, wzhaozhian.com only has the power of faith, so it is just an ordinary holy realm. But the real combat power is even more terrifying than the peak of the holy realm. And he is a majestic super saint, but he has no fighting ability. Then master, how can I improve? The Abyss Demon said in a low voice. Ye Chen smiled slightly, and he found the Abyss Demon's current attitude a little more pleasing to his eyes. "It's good that you have this idea, otherwise I wouldn't dare to take you out like this. I can't afford to disgrace this person," Ye Chen snorted. "This is the time of world war." He also knew it when he was in hell before. The vastness of the world. "John, I don't know how strong he is now, and he even has a bone dragon to help him." Ye Chen was determined to defeat John and become the first in the server. How could he not become nervous? 010. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The strongest assassin in the server. Author, B.A. Wang Shi-san. Chapter 536. Next, Ye Chen led the Abyss Demon through a set of procedures. The Abyss Demon joined the light camp in the Chinese theater, registered as a mercenary, and became a low-level soldier. In this way, he can be promoted to a higher rank, and those above the major can have fighting spirit. Then there are titles and equipment. Of course, this cannot be rushed, and it has to be improved step by step. Finally, there is faith. Master, let me become a believer of the great God ounce with my strength. I believe I will soon be able to become a high-level preacher. In that case, I will have 1,000 more fire strength and 3,000 more fire resistance, the Abyss Demon said excitedly. Hearing this, Ye Chen frowned. Although Oz is a higher god, he only masters one law, which is the law of fire elements. At the beginning, Ye Chen had no better choice and his vision was not high. He felt that it was great to be a believer and preacher of the higher god. Because of this, at the level of the holy domain, he will never be able to become the peak of the holy domain. Although his current combat power has surpassed the peak of the holy domain. But if he had 2 powers of faith, he would be at the peak of the holy realm, and his current combat power would at least increase by 10 times. This is a pity. Ye Chen smiled slightly. Although it was a pity, it was not a wrong move, because once he became a god, everything would be reshuffled. And the final battlefield must be the battlefield of the gods. It's just that he has lost some advantages in the Holy Realm stage now. And this regret, he didn't want the Abyss Demon to follow his old path. Slow down for a while, you are the weakest super saint now, and with my faith, you are just an ordinary super saint. Ye Chen explained, but if you find a god who masters 2 or even 3 laws at the same time, and then become its high-level preacher, you will be the ultimate super saint. This is the realm, and you will have the possibility of defeating the bone dragon if you continue to improve step by step in the future. You know, the bone dragon is very strong. The bone dragon is a hell demon, that is, a so-called monster, unless it is a humanoid monster, that is, the kind that can talk, such as fox demons, wolf demons, etc., they can have faith. Generally, monsters have no faith, but they are endowed with a super terrifying foundation. The bone dragon is at the top of the food chain in the holy domain stage, and its foundation is even more terrifying. Its special effect is 90% immune to magic attacks. How powerful is this? I am afraid that ordinary magic gods can't do anything to it. Its HP is probably broken. It is more terrifying than the little man dead Buddy and the giant King Odin 10,000 years ago. Yeah. The Abyss Demon nodded in response. At first, Ye Chen said to slow down, and he was a little unhappy, but later when Ye Chen said that he had the potential to defeat the bone dragon, he was immediately excited and yearning. As both are super saints, the Abyss Demon is now compared to the bone dragon. It can be said that there is a world of difference. The Abyss Demon is the ground, how can he be willing? He dreams of defeating the bone dragon. Okay, now follow me to slaughter the enemy, Ye Chen said with a smile. As early as the time when Ye Chen went to hell, Jian Wuhan led more than 100 little people from the Holy Domain and 500 strong people from the Holy Domain to fight against Jingongji. The result was naturally that Jian Wuhan won a great victory on behalf of the Chinese theater, and Jing Ongji was defeated and fled back to the Japanese theater with the remnants of the defeated army. At this moment, Jian Wuhan had led people to chase and kill them. Now he was slaughtering in the Japanese theater, and the war situation was very good. Teleport. Before Jian Wuhan led his team to enter the Japanese theater, he had people build the throne, business alliance, and king's bases on the number 1 island in the Japanese Sea. With a flash of white light, Ye Chen and the Abyss Demon teleported to the throne base on the number 1 island in the Japanese Sea, and quickly flew out, and found that there was also a big battle outside the base. Obviously, this island is extremely precious to Japanese players. Countless guilds and even NPC forces in the Japanese theater came to support and tried to destroy these 3 bases. Fortunately, Jian Wuhan was also experienced. He had already expected that the Japanese theater would be like this, so he left a group of soldiers to guard the island. Among them, there were more than 30 Saint Domain strongmen. Overlord. Hero. Leader. Boss Ye Shen. All the guards, including the 30 Saint Domain strongmen, greeted Ye Chen respectfully when they saw him appear. This overlord is the honorary title that Ye Chen earned in the Chinese theater. One day, Ye Chen will make this name resound throughout the world. Hero is obviously the honorific title given to Ye Chen by the dwarf warriors. And the leader, now that the world war has broken out, the 3 major forces in the Chinese theater, the throne, the merchant alliance, and the king, are all in alliance, and Ye Chen is the leader, the absolute core existence, and the name of the leader has also spread quietly. Ye Chen nodded calmly. At this time, the guards looked at the Abyss Demon beside Ye Chen with doubtful eyes. Among them, the Saint Domain strongman could vaguely see some information about the Abyss Demon, and immediately exclaimed, "Super Saint Strongman! Hey, everyone, I am the new little brother of the Overlord boss." The Abyss Demon grinned. After all, he was a face-loving person. As a dignified Super Saint Strongman, he was oppressed by Ye Chen and had no choice but to call Ye Chen the master. At this time, he was a little embarrassed. Calling himself a little brother is better than a slave, right? As he spoke, he winked at Ye Chen, looking pitiful. Ye Chen smiled, but didn't say anything. He just sent a message to the Abyss Demon, "I will save you some face, but you must remember our identities. I will always be your master. If you dare again provoke me, and I will definitely find a way to send you back to hell and into eternal sleep." Ye Chen is really not joking. Although the Hell Messenger's token is a special item, it can be destroyed by a strong attack. If the Abyss Demon is really stubborn, Zaishian.c he will not leave a scourge around. However, the Abyss Demon did not know the existence of the strong attack. At this moment, a pair of thief eyes looked at Ye Chen in confusion. Just as Ye Chen guessed, he was not a law-abiding person, and he even remembered Ye Chen's previous humiliation in his heart. In his heart, he thought about asking Ye Chengsu and Wei Snake first, so that both parties could use each other. Once his strength increases and he really becomes the ultimate super saint, he will definitely take revenge on Ye Chen. He is extremely ambitious, otherwise, he would not have become an Abyss Demon. But now, when Ye Chen said this, he suddenly panicked. Although he didn't completely believe it, he at least had a hint of fear in his heart. He quickly smiled and said, "Master, don't worry, I will be at your disposal from now on." Hearing the message from the Abyss Demon, Ye Chen smiled slightly and was slightly satisfied. But at this time, the guards were so frightened that they even spoke out. 010. The strongest assassin in the server. Author, B.A. Wang Shi-san. Chapter 537. His, a super saint, and not just an ordinary super saint. He looks like he is immune to physics. Such a strong man is willing to be the younger brother of Lord Yashin. It totally overturned my 3 views. Tisk, what's so strange about this? You know, Overlord has the means to become a god, and it's a piece of cake to crush the Super Saint. It's normal to subdue a few Super Saint younger brothers. Yes, when the Lilliput Kingdom and the Giant Kingdom fought, Overlord became a god. 10 god clones killed the God Palace Princess in seconds and slaughtered thousands of Saint Domain giants. The guards talked about Yechen's various deeds with relish, and they kept exclaiming. When they looked at the Abyss Demon, their eyes suddenly became much calmer. When the Abyss Demon heard this, he looked at Yechen deeply, his eyes flickering. It was the first time he heard that Yechen had the means to become a god, and he became more and more afraid. Now Yechen can beat him. After using the means to become a god, won't he kill him in seconds? Boss, I can't see through you anymore, the Abyss Demon whispered. Humph, I told you long ago that you are still far from it. Yechen smiled mysteriously and casually dropped a sea of fire, causing a devastating blow to the Japanese war zone army. In a few seconds, he gained tens of thousands of merits. Thank you all for guarding this place, Abyss Demon, let's go. Yechen nodded to the guards, and without even looking at the countless spoils, he took the Abyss Demon to the sky and flew towards the Japanese war zone. How is the battle? On the way, Yechen sent a voice message to Jian Wuhan. More than half of our side was lost, and the Light Alliance in the Japanese war zone was blown up, and the Jingongji forces were completely destroyed. 125 holy stats were seized, Jian Wuhan replied concisely. Of course, all he said were the strong men in the holy domain, and he did not count the other forces. As the saying goes, everyone is an ant below the holy domain. As a strong man in the holy domain, Jian Wuhan naturally only has the holy domain in his eyes. In addition to the 60 holy domain giants, the Jingongji forces also have half of the troops of the Light, Dark, and Neutral Alliance in the Japanese theater, which is 150 strong men in the holy domain. Because of the special nature of the holy domain giants, this is equivalent to the strength of 300 strong men in the holy domain. In addition to these, Jian Wuhan also led his team to blow up the Japanese Light Alliance, and it is normal to lose half of it. In war, it is inevitable that someone will sacrifice. Although Yechen is also very sad that the strong men in the holy domain died in battle, there is nothing he can do about it. Okay, the remaining Dark Alliance and Neutral Alliance, we will split into 2 groups. I will fight the Neutral Alliance, and you will fight the Dark Alliance, Yechen said as he rushed towards the Japanese neutral camp, followed closely by the Abyss Demon. What did you say? Jian Wuhan was startled. He didn't know that Yechen had an Abyss Demon by his side. He thought that Yechen was going to attack the Japanese Neutral Alliance alone, and he was immediately startled. Although there are only about 50 Saint Domain strongmen left in the Japanese Neutral Alliance, it is not something that Yechen can deal with alone. Don't worry, I know my limits. Yechen smiled, and was too lazy to explain more, so he hung up the voice. An hour later, Yechen and the Abyss Demon arrived at the LV4 main city of the neutral camp in the Japanese war zone. Baga, there is a red-named sanctuary in the sky. The Chinese are attacking. In the main city, a group of Japanese players saw Yechen and the Abyss Demon in the sky, and burst into screams of terror. Kill! I want to get my hands covered in blood. Yechen and the Abyss Demon roared, swooped down, and began to slaughter on a large scale. Chi! A loud phoenix cry broke through the air, and the fire phoenix was summoned, spewing flames and starting to burn the enemy. In less than half an hour, Yechen's merits soared by hundreds of thousands, but it was a pity that 10 million merits were needed to be promoted to Lieutenant General. Now Yechen's merits have reached nearly 7 million, but even so, there is still a long way to go. After this period of massacre, no Japanese players can be seen in the main city. Obviously, they were scared and left the main city. Without players, Yechen, the Abyss Demon, and Xiao Hong continued to slaughter the NPCs in the main city, and moved towards the Japanese Neutral Alliance. Not long after, the enemy's Saint Domain strongman finally arrived. It was the lord of the city of the main city, and there were 4 other Saint Domain strongmen. Asshole, you two actually broke into my main city alone. I will make sure you die without a burial place. The city lord roared and led the team to rush over. Demons are running fast. The Abyss Demon smiled coldly, and the afterimage behind him floated, and in an instant, he penetrated the city lord and the other 5 people. The Abyss Demon is a super saint, with a terrifyingly high foundation, and he easily stiffened the 5 people with one blow. Then he moved back and forth like lightning, pulling out countless afterimages, and crazily attacked the city lord and the other 5 people. With one penetration, the city lord and the other 5 people lost 1 billion blood points each. In 1 second, the Abyss Demon can penetrate several times in a row. In just a few seconds, the city lord and the other 5 people fell tragically. Seeing this, Ye Chen's face was calm. The Abyss Demon was a super saint, and it was normal for him to crush the saints. It's just that the Abyss Demon has too many flaws and is easy to be targeted. How is it, Master? My strength is okay, the Abyss Demon laughed. The afterimage floated, he grabbed the 2 holy grids that fell with his bare hands, and then rushed over, handed them to Ye Chen, and smiled flatteringly. After this massacre, the Abyss Demon gained a lot of merits, and was promoted from a low-level soldier to the rank of Lieutenant Colonel, and possessed fighting spirit. It was Cyan fighting spirit. Obviously, without the power of faith, his speed was the most outstanding. However, he now belonged to the Chinese theater like Ye Chen. He slaughtered the Japanese and would not be red-named, which made his sin value unable to continue to grow. Above the Abyss Demon is the source of sin, and Ye Chen is the source of sin. At this moment, even if the Abyss Demon kills more Japanese players and NPCs, it will stop at the Abyss Demon. There is no way. If Ye Chen does not let him join the Chinese camp, he will not be promoted. It's okay. Ye Chen smiled slightly, and continued to move forward with the Abyss Demon, and soon came to the Neutral Alliance branch in the main city. Ye Chen and Xiao Hong ignited the Sea of Fire at the same time, and burned down the branch, but did not force out even any Saint Domain strongman. Obviously, the Neutral Alliance has been informed and no longer dares to send people out. Because no matter how many people come, they will all die. Next, Ye Chen and the Abyss Demon continued to slaughter and soon destroyed the LV4 main city of the Japanese war zone. On the other side, Jian Wuhan sent news that, like Ye Chen, they only slaughtered a few saints. The Dark Alliance in the Japanese war zone also dared not send anyone out to fight. 010. The strongest assassin in the server. Author, B.A. Wang Shi-san. Chapter 538. At this point, not counting players, but counting NPCs alone, there are less than 100 strong men from the sanctuary in the entire Japanese war zone. On Ye Chen's side, there were still 300 strong men from the Holy Realm, who directly beat the strong men from the Holy Realm in the Japanese war zone to the point where they cowered and did not dare to come out. In addition, Ye Chen and Jian Wuhan each have more than 100 holy cells in their hands. The overall advantage is to completely defeat the Jinggu Princess and the Japanese theater. It's okay, they are scared. Let's capture their main city and be promoted to marshal as quickly as possible. Ye Chen sent a message to Jian Wuhan. Now that we have gained an overwhelming advantage, we need to go one step further and completely defeat the Japanese theater. At the same time, you gain meritorious service, upgrade your military rank, and increase your fighting spirit. You must know that at full level of fighting spirit, the damage will be increased 8 times and the defense will be 8 times increased. Okay, I have been promoted to major now, Jian Wuhan responded. Then the two of them hung up the phone in a tacit agreement and started harvesting separately. The main cities were captured one after another, allowing Ye Chen, Jian Wuhan, and others to gain a large number of military ranks. Jian Wuhan's side had a large number of people, and they were divided into 3 small teams and acted separately, killing like crazy. In just 3 hours, a total of 9 main cities in the Japanese war zone and the Dark Camp were destroyed. Players from the Dark Camp in the Japanese war zone did not even dare to enter the main city and could only hide in the wild area. You know, even in the Japanese war zone, there will be Chinese people stationed. There is no problem at all for the Chinese to play Dream World and settle in the Japanese war zone. They are not traitors. They belong to the international intelligence organization, the Headhunting Alliance. Since the Headhunting Alliance is an international organization in the gaming field, in order to be worthy of the word international, they recruit players from all over the world to join. They have no position and their only goal is to make money, selling intelligence from various countries to collect commissions. Of course, sometimes by publishing some heavyweight news on the international internet, they can also earn some traffic fees and fame. That night, a vest labeled Headhunting Alliance made waves on the international internet, editing the massacre of the Japanese war zone by Ye Chen, Jian Wuhan, and others into pictures, videos, texts, etc. for publicity. As soon as this kind of post appeared, it was reposted and spread by all kinds of good people around the world, causing shock in the world. Chinese players and netizens. Yashin and Jian Wuhan are well done, showing the majesty of us Chinese. Now that the Japanese war zone is weak, Japan's withdrawal from the stage of Dream World has almost become a foregone conclusion. I don't know why, but I am inexplicably happy. Nonsense, we are all Chinese. Now Yashen and Jian Wuhan are famous. Not only in the Chinese war zone, but now all over the world, they have become hot topics. It's cool. Although I am not the famous one, Yashen and Jian Wuhan represent us Chinese people to the world. I feel extremely proud and proud. Well, me too, Yeshenren is the overlord. This glorious title will definitely be resounded all over the world. I am his fan. Come on Yeshen and Jian Wuhan, don't be complacent after defeating the Japanese theater. I hope you will represent our Chinese theater and win the world championship. On the post, Chinese players were the most enthusiastic, with various replies and cheers, cheering for Ye Chen, Jian Wuhan, and others. Most of them have become fans and supporters of Ye Chen and Jian Wuhan. China Warzone, Killer's Guild, Dance of Death. Although Mingtian and Susha are not kings, they are also veteran gods in the Chinese war zone and are among the most famous people. Logically speaking, they should have the capital to enter the world's oceans and go overseas. In fact, Ye Chen also sent someone to invite these two seniors before setting off to World Ocean, but they decisively refused. They know that even in the World Ocean, they will not be the protagonists. It is better to stay in the Chinese war zone, be the hero on one side, and live a free and easy life. Even so, now that Ye Chen and Jian Wuhan's reputations have spread all over the world for the first time, they can't help but feel envious and grateful for them. I can't believe that this boy Ye Chen actually made it this far. There was deep envy in Shueisha's eyes. He also had the good wish to kill everyone and become famous overseas, but it was a pity that he was not strong enough. Be a spectator. Golden scales are not a thing in the pond. They turn into dragons when encountering wind and clouds. Shueisha, don't you always say that you are the best in the world? How about going to find Ye God P again now? Mingtian sighed with emotion, and then he smiled muffledly at Shueisha. Hearing this, Shueisha's face suddenly turned red. That's enough. You've already ruined this joke. How many more years are you going to use this to hurt me? Shueisha roared with a red face. People always have an inflated mentality. Like him, when he was in high spirits, he said such arrogant words that overlooked the world, but he didn't expect that he would become a handle for Mingtian. No matter what happened, Mingtian couldn't help but use some words to hurt him. China Warzone, the myth is immortal. The first generation myth, the second generation demon army. Mythology immortal is already the third generation of mythology, but its popularity, reputation, and even the most important strength, mythology immortality, is not as good as the previous 2 generations. The president is clearly proud of himself. Forbidden Fruit, Tyrant, Lost in the Sand, Black Dragon, and Brother Yuxio are the core members. They were originally strong, but now they have taken a backseat and are gradually sinking. As for the demon, it has long since disappeared. Since that fiasco, the demon has never appeared again. And I heard that the Mythology Club has begun to operate at a loss, and the number of main members has been decreasing. If this continues, mythology will no longer exist. I have been against Yeshen since the Hall of Fame, Mythology, Demon Army, and now the immortal president of mythology. Now it seems that I am the one who is most wrong. Ao Wushuan couldn't stop laughing bitterly. He is now the president, with a high position and power, but he feels powerless. He has limited ability and lacks courage. Every time he thinks that this mythology, which has a bit of historical flavor, will be destroyed in his hands, he feels extremely painful in his heart. Wushuan, I saw Boss Wuzui in the game a few days ago. He upgraded very quickly and is now over level 50. Jingguo smiled bitterly. With Boss Wuzui's strength, even if he can't lead us back to the top, he will be more than 100 times stronger than now. And you all know that Boss Wuzui has deep feelings for Shenhua, he can't be so heartless. Otherwise, let's find a chance to persuade him to come back. Well, if Boss Wuzui doesn't come back, you and I will resign. Ao Wushuan nodded in agreement. He knew in his heart that without Wuzui, the current Shenhua immortal was doomed to perish. When that time comes, he doesn't want to bear the name of the president. It's too heavy and he can't bear it at all. 010. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The strongest assassin in the server. Author, B.A. Wang Shi-san. Chapter 539. The stone stands on the plain, as motionless as the mountain. After Fudong Rushan died of illness, Shitu and Zioki took the lead and established the guild. Nowadays, chaos is booming, and the overall power is even stronger than the mythical immortal that is about to be destroyed. Writing this, I hope readers will remember our domain name Taiwan Novel Network Rightward Arrow. Brother Yeshen is really a dragon among men. It's really admirable that he has reached such a height now. Shitu smiled with emotion. Hearing this, Xiao Qi nodded, his thoughts far away and lost in memories. I think back to the time when Yuchen had not yet risen, and everyone could still play dungeons together and show off and brag. Unexpectedly, in just half a year, Yuchen had reached a height that made them look up to him. But they can also be regarded as witnesses of Yuchen's step-by-step rise. Although they are envious now, they are also happy. China War Zone, Level 50 Monster Zone. A gray-haired, well-equipped knight, riding a black tiger, was rapidly spawning monsters. In this monster area, there were some ordinary players who stayed away from him, gathered around and pointed at his back. Yes, he is innocent. Yakama is indeed extraordinary. From this look, Xinyue and I really don't want to lose. My era with Xinyue is over. Now I am willing to be a bystander and watch how Yeshen represents the Chinese theater and wins the world championship. Wuxin smiled slightly, his emotions fluctuating in his heart. World champion, that is his dream. He did not hesitate to struggle for 10 years, but now he has no chance, but he sees hope in Yuchen. It seems extremely ridiculous to place hope on a former enemy, but this is his obsession. No matter what, even after going through many vicissitudes and becoming like this, he still can't let go. After collecting a wave of monsters, he turned around innocently and saw a group of players pointing fingers at his back. The players were a little nervous when they saw him. In any case, it is always not good to talk about others behind their backs. But Wuxin was reborn, and he no longer cared about these things. He smiled lightly and left to look for the next wave of monsters. Hell. Because hell is a mirror image, areas will be divided according to player levels. And this hell is a level 60-70 hell. In a certain monster area, ferocious dogs howled incessantly. Looking around, they all turned out to be three-headed hell dogs. A thief wanders among a group of three-headed hell dogs and can kill a three-headed hell dog instantly with a casual blow. This is a lord-level monster. It can kill instantly. It is definitely a god-level figure. This thief's ID is quite confusing. It's called stealing a chicken but losing a handful of rice, and it turns out to be the future god of thief, Sun Yang. Sun Yang has unlimited potential and extraordinary spirit. He will 99% become a thief in the future and become famous all over the world. This is a character that even Yuchen is optimistic about and fears. But the future is the future, and he has not yet reached that level of terror. Of course, he is quite terrifying now. He can kill the Lord instantly with one move. Looking at the entire Chinese war zone, he is second only to the king. Now, although he has not yet received the title of God of Thieves, he has the title of Saint of Thieves. This is the evolved version of the Divine Thief Hand, with the title of Holy Weapon. It's not just the title. Although his equipment hides its light, it's not difficult to tell from the texture that it's a set of holy weapons. Because of this, he was able to instantly kill a lord of the same level. With such combat power, he should be proud, but at this moment, there was a wry smile on his face. I originally thought I was very close to him, but now it seems that I am still far away. Sun Yang smiled bitterly and roared inexplicably in hell. The him in his mouth was naturally Yechen. Yuchen is his guiding light and the driving force for his progress. His greatest wish is to stand beside Yuchen and walk side by side with Yuchen. He originally thought that he had reached this level. After leaving hell, he was going to find Yechen, but now Yechen is so famous that he has begun to become famous all over the world. After a little comparison, he knew that he was still far behind. Now I am busy adjusting my mentality and continuing on my own path of growth. American War Zone. Captain, there is a newcomer emerging in the Chinese theater. Do you feel the pressure? How about you and I switch positions and I bear the pressure for you? Two young men with blonde hair stood opposite each other. One of them was dark blonde and the other was golden. His piercing eyes and three-dimensional and exquisite facial features made him gleaming and handsome. He was George, one of the original cheaters of the Hell suit. He also had a sin value of 230,000 points, far exceeding Yuchen's 160,000 points. Opposing him at the moment was John. He had dark blonde hair, deep eyes, and a face as handsome as George. Moreover, compared to George, he had an indescribable charming temperament. Pressure, I've never had that kind of thing. John smiled coldly and arrogantly, with only a kind of arrogant and domineering look on the world. The newcomer you are talking about is called Yechen. I have seen him before. It's not surprising. He is not my opponent at all, so how can I put pressure on him? John glanced at George and sneered, and George, you said you want to switch places with me? Are you worthy? Do you think you can compare with me now? Hearing this, George narrowed his eyes and looked at John with an extremely gloomy look. Unfortunately, John had turned away long ago and seemed not to take him seriously. Obviously, this George was not convinced by John. We are both geniuses, why should I be suppressed by John? George wanted to replace John from the beginning, but the last time he challenged John, John beat him up and snatched his girlfriend away, making him suffer humiliation. I've said it before, with me in the American team, they can firmly sit on the World Championship. There is no need for you to exist in this team, but you just don't want to leave. John looked at George again and said with a joking smile, I advise you not to take yourself too seriously. Last time I defeated you and snatched that bitch away from you. If there is a next time, I might want to cripple your hands. After speaking, John shrugged, glanced at George with contempt, and walked away slowly without paying attention to the latter's livid face. John, one day, I will let you taste the taste of failure. Let you taste the taste of humiliation. George's face flushed, looking at John's back and gritting his teeth wanted to break, but he didn't dare to say it out loud, he only dared to say it in his heart. In fact, he had already thought of 100 ways to humiliate John after defeating him, such as peeing on his head, shitting on his head, and taking away all his girlfriends. It's a pity that this is just fantasy. He has never defeated John, and even now he doesn't dare to challenge John. How can he realize the way to humiliate John? 010. The strongest assassin in the server. Author, B.A. Wang Shi-san. Chapter 540. Japan Warzone, Goddess Alliance. At this moment, the Light Alliance in Japan Warzone has been destroyed, and the headquarters and branches of the Dark and Neutral Alliances have all been destroyed. There are less than 100 Sanctuary strongmen left, all of whom have joined the Goddess Alliance. In other words, the three major NPC alliances in Japan Warzone no longer exist, and everything is led by Jingyuji. It's a pity that Jingyuji only has about 100 Sanctuary strongmen left, and the Sanctuary giants are almost wiped out. Taiwan novel network rightward arrow Diamond Suit. Although she still has about 3,000 ordinary giants under her command, once they devour the Holy Spirit, they can transform into Sanctuary giants. However, Jingyuji no longer has any spare Holy Spirit. Jingyuji, what should we do now? As time passed, all the main cities in the three major camps in the Japanese war zone were captured. Hundreds of millions of Japanese players dared not enter the main city at all. They either stayed in small towns and villages or went to the wild. Some even deleted their accounts and stopped playing. The last 100 strong men in the Holy Land looked anxiously at Jingyuji at this moment. There is no way. We can only seek help from neighboring countries. Jingyuji looked very unhappy. After a cold snort, she went offline. After going offline, Jingyuji sent a video call to Ing in South Korea. What's wrong, my goddess? Ing smiled. In fact, the fact that the Chinese theater blew up the Japanese theater has become famous all over the world. As the leader of the Korean theater, Ing could not have been unaware of it. In the video at this moment, he smiled, which was obviously intentional. You ask even though you know the answer. Jingyuji snorted coldly, and then showed a charming smile again, as one of my suitors, Ing, now is your time to show your ability. Hee, you have so many suitors. Even if I show enough ability, I am afraid it will be difficult to capture your heart at once, right? Ing smiled slightly and said ambiguously, why not make a practical deal? For example, you sleep with me for one night. Humph, a stupid man dominated by his lower body. Jingyuji sneered, and in the video, Ing still had a cynical and playful face. Finally, Jingyuji silently took off all her clothes, revealing her proud body, and immediately put on a white yukata to cover her seductive spring light. This is considered interest. Help me defeat the Chinese war zone, and come to me again. After speaking, Jingyuji hung up the video call. In the video, the scene of Ing with a greedy face, fiery eyes, and greedy licking lips disappeared instantly. Humph, all men in the world are the same, and I can play with them at my will. After negotiating a deal, Jingyuji's face did not improve at all. She was quite confident in Ing's strength, but Yuchen was not easy to mess with. If another country joins, we will be able to easily defeat Yushin and the Chinese theater. Jingyuji thought of this and her eyebrows suddenly frowned. On the world map, the only theaters close to the Chinese theater are the Japanese theater, the Korean theater, and the Russian theater. Now that the Sino-Japanese theater has opened fire, it will be too late for Jingyuji to seek help from overseas theaters. The only ones who can catch up are the Korean theater and the Russian theater. Ing has been dealt with, and Jing Ongji will focus on the Russian theater. Jing Ongji's combat power far exceeds that of the king, and she is called the queen, that is, the so-called titled king. In this social circle, Jing Ongji is the only woman, charming and beautiful, and the other titled kings will more or less have a desire to conquer her. In fact, this is also her advantage, being admired by many titled kings, although that admiration is just the most primitive possessive desire, her vanity will also be satisfied. She has no psychological burden for the so-called transaction. Jing Ongji also knows the titled kings in the Russian theater. In her opinion, they are also fools dominated by their lower bodies. The difference is that there are two titled kings in Russia, and they are two brothers. If there is enough time, Jing Ongji is sure to alienate them, let the two kill each other, and all kneel down under her pomegranate skirt. It's a pity that she doesn't have enough time now. Humph, two idiots are still idiots, which can't stop me. Jing Ongji smiled contemptuously and made another video call. After the video call ended, Jing Ongji just came out of the bath, and there was a delicate blush on her face. Immediately, she packed a simple luggage and prepared to go out for a walk instead of going online for the time being. On the world map, the four major war zones, China, Japan, South Korea, and Russia, are close to each other, but they are also quite far away from each other. Although Jing Gyuji completed the transaction, it would take at least 1 day for Ing and others to rush over with their troops. At this time, the Japanese war zone would still be slaughtered by Ye Chen and others. Even if she went online, there would be no change, but she would be upset. Fortunately, she went to relax and recuperate. On the other side, in the Japanese war zone, Ye Chen, Jian Wuhan, and others were still slaughtering crazily, and all the main cities of the three major camps were captured. They continued to attack towns and villages, and even went to the wild to kill people. The Japanese players were panicked, roaring and cursing, but they had no power to fight back. As time passed, Ye Chen won a lot of merits, and his rank rose again and again, and he was finally promoted to Marshal. System, your merits have reached 100 million, and you are promoted to Marshal. System, congratulations on your promotion to Marshal. The daily rank gift package has changed, please check. System, congratulations on your promotion to Marshal and receiving the Marshal's Medal. Marshal's Medal, Sacred Artifact. Level 80. Strength add 1500. Physical strength add 1500. Intelligence add 1500. Spirit add 1500. Agility add 1500. Light, dark, fire, ice enhancement add 500 points. Light, dark, fire, ice resistance add 1500 points. Special effect, all shops in the light camp are 50% off. Additional skills, LV7 Dochi. Obtaining the Marshal's Medal, .zaohyan.mye Chen's attributes soared again. And attributes are attributes, and more importantly, the full level of Dochi directly doubles the damage and defense by 8 times. In addition, the daily military rank gift package has also changed. Ye Chen opened it and saw. System, you get detection devices 10, teleporters 10, lazy potion 3, god of war potion 3, space talisman *1. Oh, it's okay. Marshals can actually receive a space symbol every day. Ye Chen laughed. You know, space symbols are extremely rare. Now that they can be directly received, how can Ye Chen not be excited? He was promoted to Marshal, Jian Wuhan was also promoted to Marshal, and even the Abyss Demon was promoted to Marshal. The attributes of the three people all skyrocketed. No, to be precise, it was actually a surge in combat power, 8 times the damage, 8 times the defense, really not a joke. 0-10.